"I can't do this anymore, David. I need space." She said it while scrolling through her phone, not even looking up. I said okay and started packing that same night. 3 months later, she showed up at my promotion party, not as a guest, as hired help. "Surprise," she whispered, holding a tray of champagne. "Funny how life works out. I've always been a systems guy. Some people are the lightning, brilliant and electric, gone before you can blink. But I'm the guy who keeps the power grid running. For 3 years, I was the infrastructure that kept Emma's world functioning. When she left her marketing job to become a freelance content creator, I took double shifts as a data engineer to cover our Brooklyn mortgage. When her laptop died during her biggest presentation, I gave her mine and worked from my phone for 2 weeks. I didn't complain. I thought that's what love meant. Building something stable enough that the person you care about can take risks. But here's what I learned about being infrastructure. People stop seeing you as a person and start seeing you as a service. And when they outgrow what you provide, they resent you for being exactly what they needed. That's where Ronin came in. Ronin was everything I wasn't. He was a creative director who specialized in brand storytelling, which meant he got paid enormous amounts to have ideas while others executed them. He wore designer sneakers that cost more than my monthly Metro card and made every conversation sound like a TED Talk. He became Emma's collaborator almost immediately. "He just gets it, you know?" she would say after their 4-hour coffee meetings. "He understands the vision in a way that's so refreshing." I tried to be supportive. I asked about their projects. But Ronin had this talent for making me feel like a janitor who had wandered into an art gallery. One Thursday evening, I came home from a 14-hour debugging session to find them in our living room, surrounded by mood boards and empty takeout containers. "Oh, hey, babe," Emma said without looking up. "Ronin is helping me rebrand my entire strategy. We're pivoting toward authentic lifestyle storytelling." On a Thursday night, I asked, "Don't you have that client deadline tomorrow?" Ronin leaned back in my chair and gave me a patronizing smile. "See, this is exactly what we were talking about, David. You're thinking in terms of arbitrary deadlines. Emma is building something bigger than client work. She's creating a movement. You can't schedule inspiration." Emma nodded like he had solved world hunger. "Exactly. You're so focused on timelines that you're missing the bigger picture. Ronin thinks I've been too structured. Real creativity requires flexibility. The structure is what pays for this flexibility," I said. "The mortgage company doesn't accept payment in authentic storytelling." Emma rolled her eyes. "God, here we go with the money lecture. You're such a traditionalist. You bring this heavy corporate energy into everything. Ronin and I were having this incredible breakthrough and you just kill the vibe." Ronin stood up, patting my shoulder condescendingly. "No worries, man. The energy shifted anyway. Come on, Em. Let's grab that wine bar in Williamsburg. We can continue somewhere more conducive to creative flow." After they left, I sat in the quiet living room looking at their creative session mess. Sketches and notes covered our coffee table, all centered around the Emma brand. In all their reimagining of her future, there wasn't any space for the person who made that future financially possible. That was the first time the word heavy entered our vocabulary. Over the next 2 months, I became a stranger in the relationship I was funding. I was useful when bills needed paying, but a burden when it was time for creative collaboration. Emma stopped inviting me to her meetups, which Ronin always attended as her creative partner. She stopped asking about my day, saving her attention for their marathon planning sessions. She started speaking in Roninisms, throwing around phrases like authentic disruption, while I worked extra freelance projects so she could live intentionally. The disrespect was death by 1,000 small cuts. She compared everything I did to what Ronin would do if I suggested a movie. She'd mention how Ronin thought passive media was toxic to creativity. If I brought dinner, she'd point out Ronin's meal prep service that aligned with her mindful eating content. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I'd been working on a complex database migration for 3 days straight. I came home at 10 p.m. to find Emma recording her 15th attempt at a day in my life video. "Take 17, she said to her camera, then noticed me. "Cut. David, can you give me 20 more minutes? The lighting is perfect and Ronin says authenticity is about capturing spontaneous moments." "Spontaneous moments that require 17 takes," I asked, opening the empty refrigerator. "You're being negative again," she said, checking her appearance. Ronin says negativity is just fear of change wearing a responsible mask. Maybe instead of criticizing, you could try understanding what I'm building. I looked at her holding her phone in our kitchen that I paid for, talking about authenticity while rehearsing spontaneous content. What exactly are we building here, Emma? I asked. She lowered the phone and stared at me. What do you mean? I mean, what are we building, you and me? Because it seems like you and Ronin are building Emma's brand, Emma's strategy, Emma's future. But I'm not clear on my role besides paying for it. Emma's expression shifted into something I'd never seen, not anger or frustration. Annoyance. Like I was a subscription service she'd forgotten to cancel. David, I can't do this anymore, she said. I need space to figure out who I am without constantly managing your insecurities about Ronin and your obsession with money. I think we should take a break. A break, I repeated. I need to focus on my growth. Ronin thinks I've been held back by this traditional relationship structure while I'm in such a crucial creative development phase. I need to explore what it means to be fully myself. I stared at her. This woman I had restructured my life around, casually dismantling our 3-year relationship because her creative consultant thought I was incompatible with her personal brand. Okay, I said. She blinked, expecting more of a fight. Okay, what? Okay, you should have that space. And that's when I started making plans she would never see coming. Update 1. I didn't argue with Emma about the break. I just started treating it like the ending it was while she was discovering herself in Ronin's vision. I was quietly discovering what my life looked like without her. The first thing I realized was how much mental space I'd been dedicating to managing her moods. Suddenly, I had entire evenings to think about my own projects, goals, future. It was like someone had turned off static that had been playing in the background for months. I started working on a side project I'd put off for over a year, a data analytics platform for small businesses. Instead of listening to Emma and Ronin discuss content pillars, I was writing code that solved real problems for real people. 3 weeks into our break, Emma started testing the waters. She'd text about practical things but buried hooks, attempting to gauge my emotional temperature. Just wanted to make sure you're okay with everything. She texted after asking about the Netflix password. I know this is probably hard for you. I didn't respond to the emotional bait, just sent the password. Then messages got more frequent. Updates I hadn't asked for, photos of breakfast with mindful eating captions, screenshots of positive comments. She couldn't function without someone witnessing her experience. Ronin thinks my engagement is picking up since I started sharing vulnerable content about growth. She texted one Tuesday. I was debugging code when that came through. Instead of stopping to respond, I kept working. For the first time, Emma's need for attention wasn't my emergency. 2 days later, she called, "David, can we talk?" That particular tone when she wanted something but tried to sound casual. "What's up?" I wanted to check in, see how you're processing everything. I know this transition is probably confusing. It's not confusing, I said. You wanted space for creative development. I'm giving you space. But don't you think we should discuss what this means long term? Are we working toward getting back together, or indefinitely separated? 3 weeks ago, that would have sent me into panic. Now it seemed academic. Depends what you want to get back together to, I said. If it's the relationship where I fund your lifestyle while Ronin shapes your direction, then no. Long pause. That's not fair. Ronin is just a collaborator. Emma, Ronin is helping you build a brand that requires viewing everything, including me, as either an asset or liability to your image. That's not collaboration. That's business. You're being reductive. I'm being accurate. When's the last time you asked about my work, my projects, goals? When were you last curious about my life in a way that had nothing to do with your content or brand? Another pause. It's not simple, David. You don't understand the pressure to create authentic content consistently. It's not like your job where you just solve technical problems. Right, my job where I just solve problems. The job that pays for your apartment while you figure out how to monetize vulnerability. You're doing it again, making everything about money. I'm making it about reality. Money measures whether your creative vision is sustainable or an expensive hobby subsidized by someone else's career. I can't believe you're being this cold. I'm not being cold. I'm not being convenient anymore. For 3 years, I made your life frictionless. I handled everything practical so you could focus on creativity. The result was you seeing me as an obstacle instead of the foundation that made your exploration possible. This conversation isn't productive. You're right, which is why this break should probably become permanent. After I hung up, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Complete quiet. not resentful quiet after a fight, or anxious quiet before difficult conversation. Just pure, peaceful silence. 2 months later, David, I made a mistake. Can we please talk? I miss you. I miss us. I was finishing my analytics platform when that arrived. 6 months ago, those words would have made me drop everything. Instead, I just felt mildly curious about what prompted this shift. An hour later, I texted back. What changed? Everything. Ronin and I had a falling out. The whole partnership ended badly. I realized you were right about a lot of things. Can I see you? I stared at the message. Emma's crisis would have become my emergency. Now I just felt tired of being the person she turned to when other plans fell apart. What kind of falling out? He basically stole my content strategy and launched his own business using our ideas. Plus, he was charging other clients for strategies he created during our sessions. I feel so stupid. Even describing betrayal by Ronin, she centered it around her feelings. No acknowledgement she'd ended our relationship for this partnership. No recognition she was reaching out only after her better option failed. I'm sorry that happened. It sounds frustrating. David, can you please call me? I really need to talk to someone who understands me. The assumption I'd be available for emotional support simply because she needed it. I think you should talk to a therapist about this, I replied, or a friend. I'm not the right person to help you process your relationship with Ronin. She called immediately. David, please don't be like this. I know I hurt you, but I'm going through something. Can't we put aside our issues and be there for each other? Isn't that what people who care about each other do? People who care about each other don't treat each other as backup plans, Emma. You don't get to dismiss someone when you think you have better options. Then expect availability when those don't work out. That's not what happened, isn't it? You ended our relationship because Ronin convinced you I was holding you back. You spent 2 months exploring who you were without considering my needs. Now Ronin is gone and you want me to help figure out who you are without him. Do you see the pattern? That was 3 weeks ago. Tomorrow I'll see her again, but not because of coincidence, because I chose to. Update 2. I found out about Emma's plan by accident. My friend Jake mentioned a staffing agency hiring brand ambassadors for corporate events. Something made me curious, so I researched them. There was Emma's headshot in their roster. The interesting part was her upcoming events list. At the top, Tech Forward Innovation Awards, where I was receiving recognition for my analytics platform. Emma had gone from refusing to attend industry events with me because they were too corporate, to literally working as hired help at the event where I was being honored. I could have avoided her, but I realized I didn't want to. I wasn't afraid of seeing Emma anymore, just curious what she thought this meeting would accomplish. The night of the ceremony, I arrived early and networked with other honorees. It felt good being valued for expertise rather than utility. I was talking with a venture capitalist when I saw her. Emma stood near registration, wearing an expensive black dress that didn't fit right. Holding a tablet with a bright professional smile that didn't reach her eyes, she looked tired. Not physically, but in the way that comes from performing enthusiasm you don't feel. When she saw me, her demeanor changed. The professional smile became genuine but calculated. She spoke to her supervisor, then walked directly toward me. David, relief in her voice. I can't believe you're here. Hello, Emma, you look incredible. I saw your name on the program. Innovation Award, that's amazing. Thank you. I know this is weird, she said, me working this event when you're being honored. I want you to know I didn't plan this. I had no idea you'd be here. I nodded, not correcting her lie about specifically requesting this assignment. It's not weird. You're working, I'm working. It's just work. She blinked, expecting a different response. When I saw your name, I couldn't help thinking how crazy life is. What are the odds? Probably higher than you think. New York tech industry is small. David, can I ask you something? Do you ever think about what would have happened if we'd handled things differently? 6 months ago, that would have sent me into hypothetical analysis. Now I had zero interest in relitigating our relationship. No, I don't think about that. Really? Not at all. Emma, the problem wasn't how we handled things. It was what we were trying to handle. You wanted me to provide stability while you explored instability. That's not sustainable. She processed this, trying to reframe it for reconciliation. But don't you think people can change? Learn from mistakes? Sure. But change requires acknowledging what needs to be different, not hoping time resolved fundamental incompatibilities. What would need to be different? Almost desperate. I looked at her and felt distant sympathy, not the anxious sympathy that used to drive me to fix her problems, but what you'd feel for a stranger having a difficult day. Emma, you're asking the wrong person. What do you mean? If you want to understand what would need to be different for healthy relationships, talk to a therapist, not to relationships you've already damaged. I'm not your feedback mechanism anymore. Flash of anger before she composed herself. I'm not trying to get back together. I thought we could be civil, maybe friends eventually. We are being civil. This is what civil looks like. This isn't civil. This is cold. No, this is boundary. For 3 years, I managed your emotions as a full-time job. I'm not doing that anymore. I should get back to work. Okay. Maybe we can talk after the ceremony. I don't think so. I think this conversation is all we need. She stood there realizing I wasn't providing the resolution she'd hoped for. I hope you win your award. Thanks. An hour later, they called my name. As I accepted the award, I saw Emma watching from the back with an unreadable expression. For the first time since I'd known her, I realized I didn't need to read it. Final update after the ceremony, Emma appeared at my elbow during the VIP reception. Congratulations, that speech was impressive. Thank you. Maybe we could grab coffee this week. I've been doing work on myself and I think there are things I'd like to say for closure. Emma, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you actually want closure or do you want me back? Direct question she wasn't expecting. I want to make things right between us. That's not the same as closure. David, I've learned so much. I've been in therapy reading about attachment styles. I realize I was projecting fears about commitment onto you, and Ronin was basically a distraction from real work I needed to do. Carefully rehearsed self-help summary. I felt pity, not anxious, enabling pity, but clean pity for someone trying hard to solve the wrong problem. That sounds like valuable insight. One thing I've realized is you were the best relationship I've had. Stable and supportive in ways I wasn't mature enough to appreciate. Emma, I know I hurt you by prioritizing Ronin's opinions, but I understand now how damaging that was, and I'd never let something like that happen again. Emma, stop. Startled. What? This isn't going to work. What isn't? This script you've prepared. This reconciliation version where you've done therapeutic work, and now you're ready to appreciate what we had. It won't work because you're still trying to manage this conversation's outcome instead of actually having it. I don't understand. You're not here because you miss me. You're here because you missed the role I played. You missed someone whose job was providing stability while you figured yourself out. Now that Ronin is gone and you're working event staff, you're trying to recruit me, face flushed. That's not true. You've done therapy, read about attachment styles, done the work. But have you asked why I should be interested in those results? Have you considered what I might want from a relationship that has nothing to do with providing you foundation for self-exploration? Of course I have. What is it? She stared, unprepared. What do you mean? What do you think I want from a romantic partner? Not what you think I should want, but what would actually make me happy. Silence stretched uncomfortably. She looked like someone trying to remember an answer to a test question she'd never studied. You want someone who appreciates your stability. That's what you think I provide, not what I want to receive. You want someone who doesn't take you for granted. Still about what I provide. Try again. David, this feels like a trap. It's just a question. After 3 years, what do you think would make me happy in a relationship that has nothing to do with my utility? Almost felt sorry for putting her in this position. Almost, I don't know, quietly. Right. You don't know because in 3 years you never asked, not once. You never asked what I wanted from life, what I was passionate about, what I dreamed about when I wasn't solving your problems. You never asked because the answer wouldn't have affected your decisions. That's not fair. It's completely fair. Emma, you didn't love me. You loved the service I provided. Now that you need that service again, you're rebranding appreciation for my utility as personal growth. I did love you. No, you loved the way I loved you. You loved access to unconditional support and financial stability. You loved being the center of someone's universe, but you never saw me as a person with independent needs. You saw me as a foundation, and foundations don't have agendas. Eyes filling with tears, struggling to shift conversation back to her emotional experience. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. For the first time in our relationship, I'm telling you exactly what I think instead of managing how you'll react. So there's no chance for us, not ever. Emma, there was never an us. There was me managing your life and you allowing it. That's not a relationship. That's an internship where I did all the work, and you got all the credit. She cycled through emotional responses, looking for one that would change the dynamic back to something familiar, where my job was caring for her feelings. This isn't fate, Emma, I said quietly. This is just the last place you thought I'd still save you. She looked like I'd slapped her. But I'm not here to save you anymore. I'm here to receive an award for work I did while you figured out how to monetize authenticity. I'm here as a person with my own life, not as your emergency contact. I should go, okay. She turned and walked away without goodbye. I watched her weave through the crowd toward the service exit. Shoulders set like she was trying hard not to cry in public. I felt nothing watching her leave, not satisfaction, not regret, not closure, just quiet recognition that some conversations are endings disguised as beginnings. And some people are lessons disguised as love stories.